All right, we give praise, esteem, and honor to Elohim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach this day. Pick us up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures. In them you think you have eternal life, and there they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you to Allah. There's one that accused you, even Moses, of whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? Shalom, man. Praise be to Abba and Shamahim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Let's get this show started, man. And Psalm 61. If you would. Psalms 61. Oh, niggas crazy. Psalm 61 and 1. Hear my cry, O Elohim, and attend unto my prayer. From the end of the earth will I cry unto you when my heart is overwhelmed. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been a shelter for me, a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in your tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of your wings, Selah. For you, O Elohim, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those that fear your name. You will prolong the king's life, and his years as many generations. He shall abide before Elohim forever. O prepare mercy and truth, which may preserve him. So I will sing praise unto your name forever, that I might daily perform my vows. Now, of course, because by the mercy of Elohim, we're going to prepare to get ready for the observation of tabernacles. We'll take a little slant, and it's still keeping us on the track of what we have been discussing, which is things pertains to a king. I'm trying to find the rest of that information that came from that. I don't even remember what I did with it. Or what buddy was talking about. I think I might have got everything out of that was relevant. Give me a second. That jump further up. I don't even remember where it's at no more. Shalom, man. These doggone people ain't even come pick trash up today, man. Well, these niggas ain't hitting on nothing. I'm gonna find it in a second. I just was looking at this job the other day. That's completely unfortunate for me now, isn't it? Yes, it is. And if I find, oh, there it is. So we've already talked about the purpose of a king's wealth is to secure the reputation of his esteem. And then it also will look at the glory of a king is his power to outgive another king. And we'll also look at a king does not just rule his territory, he owns it. And then, of course, we'll get on to some other things. You know what I'm talking about? Which that pertains to giving. But let's deal with this first part, that the king's wealth is to secure reputation for his esteem. But the first thing we want to discuss is that we will abide in his tabernacle forever. And of course, for those who will not be familiar, the tabernacle is not always Sukkot. This time it is Ohel. Now this is Aleph, Hay, and Lamad. This is simply a nomad's tent, someone who is a transient, lives in a life in the wilderness. Also, your dwelling You're covering this, that, there, and the third. I seen a dude earlier today tell people, while y'all wait, the tabernacle is just to dwell in tents. You can dwell in tents year round. These people crazy, man. These people be on some other type of time. But when we're looking at dwelling in this tabernacle, I want to come to Proverbs chapter 18. We still going to talk about his throne, interweave that here and there, in and out. The reason why we're going to go look at Proverbs 18 and 10 is because he said that this man has been a shelter for him. When we look at shelter, and this is verse 3 that I'm referring to, it is makase, which is a refuge and a shelter or a place from danger, a place of trust. This is a place of where we choose and prefer to dwell. This is why we will abide in his tabernacle forever. If I can get to where we need to be, we might be all right. And of course, Proverbs 18 and 10, a verse that many of you should already be familiar with. The name of Yahuwah is a strong tower. The righteous run into it and are safe. Now, he said he's been a shelter for him and a strong tower from the enemy. Now, of course, you know that is Oz, is for strength. And then, of course, you have Migdal, which is a tower. Simple thing, simple fact in the pattern. But when you see tower, you should automatically think Yahuwah, because his name is as a strong tower. This is a place of protection, and he is a strong tower from the enemy. Well, do we need to just sit back and deal with the enemy? Yes, why not? Let's do it. Because we want to dwell in this tabernacle. And we know that this man's name is a strong tower. If we run into it, we are safe. This gives us shelter from the enemy. So when we look at tabernacles, like I said, a lot of brothers on tabernacles, they get in the wrong idea. Now, we've already talked about what the king's wealth is, which is basically the Ruach HaKodesh and the things that are contained in it. This is how the Ruach HaKodesh shows forth the purpose of his wealth is to secure the reputation of his esteem. This is why he stated that if you love one another, then they will know that you are my disciples if you love each other like you love me, because the Ruach can't dwell in an individual where love is not present. See, we had that discussion during atonement and leading up to that, especially we were dealing with his ransom, his redemption, his plenteous redemption, as we looked at in Psalms 131, how there's forgiveness with him that he might be feared. And in the midst of that forgiveness and that redemption is access to the free gift. Through the access to the free gift, that is redounding to his reputation, because you would have the manifestation of his wealth. And see, the manifestation of his wealth can only dwell in a place of love, because he gave it from a place of love. That's why love is very, very important to understand. See, love is not enabling. Love is not co-signing. And most people, they don't have it in them. Truth be told, most people quit on life majority of the time. Most people don't put in maximum effort. Most people don't like to be challenged. So when you deal with Yahuwah, you're going to be challenged. You're going to have to be challenged to rise up to him, because as we've talked about ad nauseum, he is not coming down to you. Remember, that's what they wanted him to do on the stake. They wanted him to walk away from love to appease and validate them. Never walk away from the construct and the application of love for the validation of those who love does not dwell in. You can read 1 Corinthians 13. We don't have time to enumerate the examples of that in the text, but you see what it is and you see what it's not. I've already told, if you're loving from an emotional aspect, you're not loving at all. That's nothing but something for the vanity of your own mind. You know what I'm talking about? We have to start. If we're going to sit back and we tell people Revelation 18, come out of her, my people, and all that there in the third, then you'd have to come out of all the constructs of the secular world, and what they taught us was certain construct. I don't really want to use that word, but certain things of how we live our life are not accurate in heaven. Doesn't mean that you're inherently wrong or you're this, that, there, and the third. It's just that it's not congruent with the will in heaven. That's all it means. If you want to love emotionally, that's your business. But that doesn't line up with the will in heaven, though. You know what I'm saying? And there's no way that we can get around that. See, we can't make him take or observe or deal with things because we feel like that's what they should do. That doesn't make any sense. Then we would have to look at, are we operating in the natural processes of which you were created for? If you're not doing what you were created for, we talked about this before, you're utterly useless. It means you're trash. Nobody can use you. You're refuse. Because our biggest problem is we want to operate outside of the construct of love, which is selflessness and sacrifice. So if we want to dwell in his tabernacle, we want to dwell in his tent, because we'll say we're a transient people, which when I mention transient, if you don't know what transient is, you might want to look it up. Because I mentioned we're a transient people, the first thing that came to your mind is that Hebrews chapter 11, that we declare that we desire a country. Well, Elohim is not ashamed to be called our Elohim, and he's not ashamed to call us his people, because we have no continuing country. We look for a city that come down from Shamahim. This is what you're supposed to be understanding, not making a tent at no campgrounds. That's it. That's what we really got in our brain, that we really executed the main construct of worshiping Yahuwah by going to buy tents and going to some campgrounds and cooking marshmallows and food over a flame. And now you feel like you've returned back to your culture and heritage. That is an empty platitude to fill the vanity of your own brain. And I've always felt like this. I just ain't always just came out in the matter and stated that plainly. That's the vanity of your own mind, to make you feel like you really connecting to Yahuwah. You a damn fool if you think a campfire and a tent gonna connect you to your Elohim, if you really think he constructed this feast day for that purpose. That's not what he made this feast day for. He made this feast day for you to understand that you were dwelling in booths, in a temporary shelter, in a temporary body, until you could dwell in the great booth, which would be his son, and then dwell in the tabernacles that exist in his king. See, matter of fact, before I even read this 2 Corinthians 5, come on to John 14, man. Let's just do it like that. Let's come over here to John 14, man. We come right off the top row, verse 1. We ain't going to play around with it. We ain't going to read nothing else but what's relevant. John chapter 14 and verse 1. See, I get it too. And I don't knock nobody. I know you first get in the word, dudes go to telling you about that. You get all excited. Yeah, we're going to camp out. This, that, there, and the third. But then when it's over, then what? What was the spiritual benefit that you got from participating in said activity? Only reason I say this because so many brews are so amped to show you what they're doing. They're not showing you that they're praising Yahuwah. They're not showing you that they're worshiping Yahuwah. Some do. I'm not going to say all don't, because that would be foolish. But most just want you to see, oh, we out here in this tent, we keeping these laws. That's what they're doing it for. That's for the vanity of your own mind. That wasn't for Yahuwah. You did that for yourself. See, this is what I was talking about. We were talking about last week. Who do you do things for? Do you do things because you have placed yourself in the feet of the person who you're doing it for? See, there's a difference, right? If you're doing something for someone who's in a lower state, that means you have empathy. Again, empathy is different from sympathy. Look it up. See, you could be sympathetic and not be empathetic. See, being empathetic means you can empathize with the situation and circumstance, which means you have been in it. I know a lot of people say they empaths. How can you have empathy for something you've never experienced? You can only have sympathy. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if I haven't had that experience, I can't empathize with you. I don't know what it's like to be in that situation. I don't know that pain. I don't know that suffering. I don't know that. I can't empathize with you. I can only sympathize. You know what I'm saying? Two things misconstrued. They're not the same thing. One is the understanding through direct experience, and the other is just being able to be a support system and suffer with them, as the text tells you to do. But when you're talking about loving somebody who is greater than you, that's extending reverence and honor and respect and doing things from a genuine delight. And most people don't do things out of love to someone who is greater than them, because most don't believe that someone is greater than them. Most believe that they're equal. Most believe that they're equal with Yahuwah. So they don't feel the need to worship him. They don't feel the need to esteem him. They believe that he is on their level. He is not. Not even close. John chapter 14 and verse 1. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in Elohim, believe also in me. In my Abba's house there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. Now let's just look at that Greek word for mansions. Because if there's many mansions, there's many tabernacles, there's many ohels, there's many dwelling places. When we get to mansions here, what do we have? We have Monet. It is a staying, an abiding, a dwelling, an abode. Also, the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh. So when we see mansion here, it's not the literal mansions, but many dwelling places. There are many, many dwelling places in his house, which means there are many tabernacles. Come over here to 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 1. For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of Elohim, a house not made with hands, eternal in the Shamahim. For in this we groan and earnestly desire to be clothed upon with our house, which is from Shamahim, if so that being clothed, we shall not be found naked. Pause. Now, we talked about being naked last week. Pardon me. Was it last week? Now I'm thinking, it was one of them days. If it wasn't Saturday, it was Wednesday. Or it was Tuesday. Either or. It probably was Tuesday. I can't remember. When we talked about Adam and how he was found naked and Yahuwah clothed him with the linen tunic. The linen tunic that came from the hide of a man or a lamb or Yahushua HaMashiach, a precursor to the salvation that would be given unto us in the Ruach HaKodesh, or a tabernacle to dwell. Because he said if we be found naked, if being found clothed, we won't be found naked. If we're being found abiding in this tabernacle, then your shame won't appear. But let's continue. For that we are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened. Not for that we have been unclothed, but clothed upon, that mortality might be swallowed up of life. Now that he have wrought for us the self same thing is Elohim, who also have given unto us the earnest of the Ruach. Now this is what the point that I want y'all to be able to gather and understand. As we transition from atonement to tabernacles, you transition from what? Mercy to the gift. The gift sets and seals his reputation. Because now the riches of the king have been bestowed, and now his reputation has been procured. That you know where his wealth resides and what manner of wealth that he has. See, look again, we talked about it the other day. Let's look at it. Acts chapter what? 5? Was it Acts 8? Either way it go. I think I'll find it. With old little buddy. Wilding out. Might be Acts 5 that I desire. No, it ain't Acts 5. It's not that one. It's escaping my mind at this time. And I was right the first time. Acts chapter 8. That's where I want to start at. You can pick it up at verse 5. Acts 8 and 5. He said, then Philip went down to the city of Samaria and preached Mashiach unto them. The people with one accord gave heed unto those things which Philip spake, hearing and seeing the miracles which he did. Unclean ruachs crying with a loud voice came out of the many that were possessed with them. Many taken with palsies and that were lame were healed. There was great joy in that city. There was a certain man called Simon, which before time in the same city used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria, giving out that himself was some great one. to whom they all gave heed from the least to the greatest, saying, man is the great power of Elohim, and to him they had regard, because of that long time he had bewitched them with sorceries. But when they believed Philip preaching the things concerning the Malkuth of Elohim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, they were immersed, both men and women. Then Simon himself believed also, and when he was baptized, he continued with Philip and wondered, beholding the miracles and the signs which were done. Now when the apostles which at Jerusalem had heard that Samaria had received the word of Elohim, they sent unto them Peter and John, who, when they were come down, prayed for them that they might receive the Ruach HaKodesh. For as yet he was fallen upon none of them, only they that were immersed in the name of the Lord Yahushua. They laid their hands on them, they received the Ruach HaKodesh. And when Simon saw that through the laying on the apostles' hand the Ruach HaKodesh was given, he offered them money, saying, give me also this power, that whomsoever I lay hands, he may receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Peter said unto him, your money perish with you, because you thought the gift of Elohim may be purchased with money. You have neither lot nor part nor lot in this manner. Your heart is not right in the sight of Elohim. Repent therefore of all this your wickedness, and pray Elohim, if perhaps the thought of your heart may be forgiven of you. For I perceive that you are in the gall of bitterness and in the bond of iniquity. Then answered Simon and said, pray you the Lord for me, that none of these things which you have spoken come upon me. Now, why do we read this here, right? This is a gift. He thought the gift could be purchased with money. Now, remember, the purpose of the king's wealth is to secure a reputation for his esteem. But also, let's take a look at it this here. We'll be able to tie in two other things that we got to come into. First and foremost, you have, because now, of course, you know, Buddy was using this in that instance to justify giving money to the preacher. Let's just be honest about that. Would you be safe to say that that was his angle in that particular video? But he stated something, that royal protocol requires that a gift must be presented when you visit a king, and that gift must be fitting for a king. And also, the gift reveals the value and worth that you put on the king. Worship demands a gift, and giving is worship. And giving to a king acknowledges his ownership of everything. When you give to a king, you make him obligated to outgive you. I'm going to read those things again to you. I want you to understand what we're talking about. First thing first, we're talking about that the purpose for a king's wealth is to secure reputation, the reputation of their esteem. We've already established that the wealth of Yahuwah is the Ruach HaKodesh. But then we come into this aspect of the play, that royal protocol requires that a gift must be presented when you visit a king. What is the first verse that enter you? And again, we're talking about dwelling in his tabernacle. So if you're dwelling in his tabernacle and he's a protection from your enemies, because you run into the name of Yahuwah, the name of Yahuwah is a strong tower in which you are safe. And we already been talking about his throne, which is established in mercy, which is why it's called the mercy seat to begin with. You understand? What are some of the verses that come to your mind out of the law that says royal protocol requires that a gift must be presented when you visit a king? And to establish that Yahuwah is the king, I will read you Psalm 24. I will read you verse 10. Who is the king of esteem? Yahuwah of hosts, he is the king of esteem. So with that being said, what passages out of the law, because this is where you're going to get your royal protocol. Hold on. Let me establish that the law is the royal law. Let me read James chapter 2 for you. Let me just establish that for you, that this is a royal law. Let me get this James chapter 2. Let me get you verse, where is it at? That's not verse. There we go. Verse 8. If you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you do well. So we need to establish that the law is royal protocol. That's why we read that James. We had to establish that Yahuwah is king. And if he's king and it's his law and he's the king, then that means it's a royal law, which means there's royal protocol that a gift must be presented when you visit a king. And y'all can tell me what you got when you get it. I'm taking book only. And again, like I said, because we're talking about being the king, him being the king, and we all say we want to get in his kingdom. So if we all say we want to get in his kingdom, then we need to begin to understand royal protocol and how you approach a king, how you deal with a king. Because then this will allow, number one, because we kind of talked about that already, but we'll revert back to it, if you would permit, how a man should conduct himself as a king and how his woman should view him as one, if she's supposed to have reverence unto him as unto the Lord. Because that's just how it goes. But I'm waiting on y'all. I'll read y'all that passage, that his proclamation one more again. Royal protocol requires that a gift must be presented when you visit a king. What you got for me out the royal law for that? Y'all knowledgeable people. I will allow it. Come over here to Genesis 14. Good evening, good sir. I hope all is well with you. Genesis 14 and 17. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedar, and of the kings that were with him in the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. He was the priest of the Most High Elohim. He baruched him and said, Baruch be Abram of the Most High Elohim, possessor of Shamahim and the rats. He baruched the Most High Elohim, which delivered your enemies into your hand. He gave him tithes of all. The king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the persons and take goods to yourself. Abraham said to the king of Sodom, I lift up my hand unto Yahuwah, the Most High Elohim, the possessor of Shamahim and the rats, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, that I will not take anything that is yours, lest you should say, I made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, in the portion which of the men who went with me, Aner and Mamre, let them take their portion. Now, there was some other stuff in this here, like they said, we didn't talk about this before, but ain't nobody else got nothing else. He the only one got something. That's all. Y'all can't come up with nothing else. Come on, man. Come on, man. Now I got to show you the white man on my hat, because y'all playing games. I'll put my hat on. I ain't going nowhere. Y'all gonna have to look at the white man on my hat. I could allow it. Joseph wasn't a king, but he, you know what I'm talking about? We'll allow it. He was second in command. Man, I thought y'all would at least get, if one of y'all would have came with the top answer on the Family Feud, I would have kept on rolling. Y'all got a top answer. I know y'all know what it is. Come on, man. Y'all better than that. Now y'all got to look at the white man on my hat. Oh, the question is, protocol states that a gift is required when you visit a king. Where in the law shows you that a gift is required when you visit the king? We established that Yahuwah is the king, and royal protocol, the law is the royal law, so therefore the royal protocol is contained in the law. So I know y'all looking at instances of men, but y'all should know in the law, because I gave you key components for y'all to pick this up very easily, that if the royal law is the law and gifts must be presented to the king and Yahuwah is the king, that'd be able to narrow this down from Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy very, very easily, possibly Exodus, but most definitely Leviticus and Deuteronomy and Numbers are what we're referring to here. This is too easy for y'all not to know the answer. Entirely too easy. And I said, there's enough. If we was on a Family Feud, it'd be a top two answers. I will allow it. Come over here to the Deuteronomy 16, if you would. Especially considering that we're talking about tabernacle. I just thought it would set y'all up for a nice, clean layup. Pocket pass, if you would. Deuteronomy 16:16. I'm going to check that out in a second, Rohan. Give me 1 second. 3 times in a year shall all the males appear before Yahuwah your Elohim, in the place where he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles. They shall not appear before Yahuwah empty. Well, shoot, you playing the wrong game, man. You got to take a high percentage shots. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahuwah Elohim, which he have given you. So yeah, you play that new basketball. That's that new basketball. We like it in the paint, low block. Psalm 45, 11, 12, we like it in the low block. You know what I'm talking about? Punish niggas in the post, man. Make them not want to come down there no more. Let's look at Psalm 45 and 11. Before we come over here to Leviticus 17. You saying chapter 17, Rohan, or verse 17? 45 and 11 of Psalm says, so shall the king greatly desire your beauty, for he is your Lord. Worship you him, and the daughter of Tyre shall be there with a gift. Even the rich among the people shall entreat your favor. Now again, this is referring to somebody coming into a king bringing gifts. We kind of read that with Solomon bringing gifts. But the one that I thought y'all would get is to remember that it's tabernacles. And you know, it's 3 times in a year you got to come up. And the men can't come up empty. They got to bring a gift. It's mandatory. Word. It's mandatory. You have to bring a gift up to the king. Remember, pause. Zechariah 14. Just look at something right here, right? What it say about tabernacle? So I seen a dude the other day. See, you gonna keep the feast in the king? See, people trying to, one thing about it, I'm not finna be coming at nobody for them to keep no feast of Yahuwah. You either gonna keep them or you ain't. You know what I'm saying? You gotta try to convince nobody or nothing. Word, you good, bro. You know what I'm talking about? Like, if people want us to keep Christmas versus tabernacles, shoot. Hey, that's them. You know what I'm talking about? Zechariah 14 and 16, though. And it shall come to pass that everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem, which would be your Revelation 19, of all the nations that came up against Jerusalem by gathering together with the beast, which is why the name of Yahuwah is a strong tower, a covert from the storm and protection from the enemy. Nevertheless, shall go up even from year to year to worship the King, Yahuwah of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. Now remember, let's look at something that we just read. It was just mentioned from what is it? Miles Monroe was talking about. The gift must be fitting for a king. The gift reveals the value and worth that you put on a king. See, that's the thing that most people don't realize, is that your service and the things that you give, that shows you how you value or you see the king. Yeah, but see, we talking about strictly in the law. When I said in the royal law, I'm talking about exactly in the law, where the protocols. You could sit back and look at that, and definitely that a broken and contrite spirit is something that he's not going to reject, because that's an offering, and offerings are gifts. That's what I was hoping y'all would go click in your brain. Every sacrifice and every offering you bring to Yahuwah is a gift. See, we're going to get to that because that's going to come into the next aspect of it, of what's mentioned, that worship demands a gift, and giving is worship, and giving to a king acknowledges his ownership over everything. When you give unto the king, because again, this is a harsh reality that people don't want to look at, that people understood in times gone by. Yeah, see, we're going to get to that. Yes, Stanley, we're going to get to that. Because we're going to get to that, how he did not bring an offering fit for a king, which is why his offering was rejected. So that's what people want to look at. See, when people don't look at a twofold thing. A husband owns his wife. That is his possession. That is his property, because technically he paid for it. But see, we're no longer at that aspect in society, because you know the text tells you that you were bought with a price, that you sold yourself for naught, and you'll be redeemed without money. That means you belong to your husband. So what you do to him Yes, those are all gifts. Drink offerings, burnt offerings, peace offerings, votive offerings. All of those things are gifts. When you came and you brought Yahuwah the gift, you were showing that Yahuwah had ownership over what you were giving him. And by product, that he had ownership over you. That's the difference of the society that we live in now, where people gave reverence to those who were greater than them, which is why you hear people talk about, and for lack of a better word, romanticize different time periods in human history. Of the incense was something that the priests offered. We talk about that. That's more in line with the prayers and things of that nature, because the people couldn't give incense. You couldn't come to the altar and offer incense. That was strictly for the priest and the priest alone. Verse 17, right? Zechariah 14. It shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, Yahuwah of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. Now look at the key component, what you see in here in Zechariah 14. It continually referenced the fact that Yahuwah is the King. And if you're going to come up to the King during the Feast of Tabernacles, it is required that everyone brings a gift. Now understand this, right? Because remember, the last part of this, right, is that when you give to a king, you make the king obligated to outdo what you brought him, because you can't show up the king, because the king knows if you bring unto him according to what you bring him, it shows how you see him. This is why, at least in modern day times, you got a lot of niggas who be whining and crying, you know what I'm saying? But also some who are just stating exactly what they got going on, because it's been conflated. They'll tell women, you know, how he treats you, that's how he feel about you. But young men, you would need to know the same. How that woman handles you, that's how she feel about you. If the respect is not there, if the obedience and reverence is not there, it's not worth your time. That's what you need to teach them young men. It's not worth your time. Just bite your losses and go. You know what I'm talking about? It's too much stuff you got to deal with as a man to be living in misery. Don't do it. You know what I'm talking about? See, Yahuwah didn't do it because his kingdom. Now, there's another aspect of it, which is difficult for you to do. You could do it in theory, but in application, you can't do it because you're a stranger in a strange land. And that's a king does it, owns his territory. And there's a verse for that, and we're going to look at that also. Not just referring to the land, but to the whole earth. Yahuwah owns the whole territory. That's what people look at. I know some now that when it comes to a gift, we could go through the text for that. You know what I'm saying? Now I had to go through the text for that. But so give me a moment, because it's booked for that. Middle off my train of thought. Now here we go. Some TikTok clip, some chick, you know what I'm saying, reacting to some dude talking about why black men date women of other races, and she was talking trash. You know what I'm saying? She said, well, what if we held you to European standards of owning land? And the reason why her perspective is pure just asinine is that a lot of women don't understand, to have land, you got to go to war. See, nobody's going to give you land. You have to conquer it. You're going to have to take it. You're going to have to shed blood. See, that's the part of the aspect. They set yourself free. Would have set ourselves free. We're going to have to go to war. Now, by the grace of Elohim, we have a little bit more spiritual understanding to understand and know why you're in the position that you're in. So you just patiently endure until Yahuwah see fit to redeem his people from the captivity of which we sold ourselves into. But if you was to take the word out of the play, and thank Yahuwah that is not possible, in order to take over some land, you're going to have to go to war. Ain't nobody giving over no territory. So that means blood going to be shed. So when you hear people make those type of statements as a man, you don't even need to justify them with responses, because you know that this is not a woman who is living in reality. She's living in a delusion, because they don't know what's going to take to pull that off, because you're going to have to go to war, and many people are going to die. And that means many children are going to die, and your women are going to be raped. So in the effort to pull that off, because see, we like to do all this banter and get on internet forums and talk all this trash. But at the end of the day, if you're going to liberate yourself without Yahuwah, somebody got to die. I mean, truth be told, before we even get liberated by Yahuwah, a lot of us gonna die. So if you're not understanding this here, man, whether it be spiritually or whether it be naturally, there is no achieving of freedom without death and bloodshed. It's not happening. It's not happening. And as a man, you should know that. If you don't know that, then you're not thinking like a man, because there is no freedom without death. I don't care what nobody tell you. You can go back and study any type of history, whether the revolt was engineered or whether it was not organic. Somebody had to die. Like a lot of these revolts we be seeing now, all that junk be staged, man, because ain't nobody dying. If people revolting, somebody dying. Somebody is dying. That's the only way that you have a revolution. Somebody has to die. The only way to upset the apple cart is to flip it over. And if you flip it over, you're going to have to be willing to fight the person's cart who you flip. Because if you think somebody gonna come in there and let you upset what they got going on, and they not gonna do nothing, you's a fool. It was funny because the lady said you operating by European masculinity standards. What the hell does that even mean? What are European masculinity standards? What does that mean? There's no such thing. A man is a man. There's no such thing as European masculinity. A man is a man. What they're really trying to tell you is they don't that they want you to behave as a man who gives deference to a woman, and now you're being masculine. But no woman wants a man who defers to her, who worships her, who honors. She doesn't want that because you're weak. She knows that you're not going to be able to protect her because you're going to spend too much time venerating her. Hey, I mean, at the end of the day, shoot, a Phoenix couldn't know what they were doing because them people ain't believing God no way. And you know why? Well, you know why they made that vital mistake? Because Yahuwah gave him that mind to make that mistake because he wasn't with them people to begin with. Because remember, he declared to a man what his thought gonna be, and there can be many counsels of men, but the counsel of Yahuwah shall stand. And his counsel was that he wasn't gonna be involved with them people. At the end of the day, he wasn't going to be involved. See, that's also a harsh reality for us, as that we could see a lot of people and European ideology being Greek and Roman is nothing but Egyptian and Babylonian. So they taking that from Hamites, Cushites, if you will. You know what I'm talking about? But yeah, that's another conversation, boy, because that's a hard one when we go to talking about that stuff. Come on back over here, man. Let's look at Deuteronomy 14. Let me get this here where Sean was talking about an appropriate gift. Now, I feel you. I mean, I could say that just off the text, because like I said, that's that Amos 4. He declared to a man what his thought gonna be. So if she could come back years later and say the biggest mistake that they did was leaving him out, then I know that clearly it was his will for them to leave him out, because he ain't want nothing to do with it. I just look at that just based off the evidence. Because one thing for certain and two things for sure. If Yahuwah was to be included, he gonna be included. There ain't no way around that. You can't leave Yahuwah out of space that he carved for himself. If he carved a space for him in that movement, he gonna be there. But see, this is the thing of why we know he removed himself, because the esteem would have to go to him. See, Huey Newton wouldn't be on no t-shirts, and we wouldn't be having no conversations about him. We wouldn't be talking about no Tupac Shakur, no Afeni Shakur, no Matula Shakur. We wouldn't be talking about no Bobby Seale. There wouldn't be no Judas and the Black Messiah movie. We wouldn't be talking about Fred Hampton. We wouldn't be talking about any of these people, because their names would be so insignificant and inconsequential, because the entire statement would have been about Yahushua HaMashiach, which 9 times out of 10, they probably would have been saying Jesus. So their whole game would have been bringing esteem and honor unto him. And if it wasn't in their heart to honor and esteem him in their life, then of course there's no way that he could be included, because he wasn't included in how they were living. Because again, we just seen that worship is mandatory for a king, which means you're going to have to give reverence. You're going to have to bow the knee. And people don't want to bow the knee to Yahuwah, because they're going to have to acknowledge he's greater. That's why you see the constant struggle between because our men and our women are the only nationality of people who war openly. You know what I'm saying? The other races of people, they have these issues. Don't think that they don't, but they don't war openly. They don't manifest disdain for each other openly. They don't seek to not cooperate with one another openly. They don't seek to succeed from one another openly. And just proclaim to whoever will listen the utter disdain that they have for the other. And this is why you're not respected. Now, Caucasians had these problems, but, you know, of course, it's their land. At least here in America, they can shade these things. We were just talking about this in the car. One of the brothers thinking, yeah, man, they created child support for black people. I said, no, they didn't. They did not have you in mind. They created that for their own people. I said, of course, from your perspective, from your experience, you only know black people who dealing with this. But white men utterly abhor the child support system. They're getting their heads cracked by it just as much as you are. Matter of fact, they're getting cracked by it more because it's more of them. And they don't particularly care for their women either. They just not going to talk about it openly. They're not going to disparage her openly. They ain't gonna go hard on her openly, but shoot, they go hard on their women too. They utterly despise because their women act just like you do. The only difference is their women cut it short of saying, I don't need you, or wanting to separate themselves from you and say, I'll stay over here by myself. Their women don't do that. In general, they're not gonna do that. They know that that's unwise, because we already know this here. If you want to build any manner of wealth, the wealth is built. As we just seen when we said that, when that dude was telling that woman that I've showed y'all in the chat, because that's why I put it in there, because I knew I was going in this direction with this book, because we got book for that. We're going to read it shortly. If you want to build wealth, then you need to have a family. The family structure is the greatest avenue for the building of wealth through the history of mankind. And the powers that be in this country know that. So that's why they like to keep it fractured and fissured. Anything that you keep fractured and fissured, as I told you earlier in the week, Satan can come in and work havoc. Satan can't work havoc in a tight-knit environment. He can only work havoc where there's separation, because then he can sow seeds of doubt. He's the prince of power of the air. Then he can just throw seeds of doubt all through the organization, all through the family. That's what he do. That's why you can't be ignorant to his device and how he kick his game. Which is why I've always told you, always kick his game through the woman. The woman is the easiest condiment because she's the emotional one, and she can be easily deceived by the feelings that she feels. That's why as a man, you can never deal in your feelings, because you cannot afford the opportunity of being deceived by him. You would have to be able to see him coming miles away in order to protect the family. But see, that's foresight. That's something a woman does not have. She can't see that. She can't see that far down the line. That's something that man couldn't see. Because if man could see it, Adam wouldn't have sat down and ate from that tree with her. Yahuwah had already had the foresight. That's why the lamb was slain from the foundation of the world. Deuteronomy 14:21. He said, you shall not eat anything that die of itself. You shall give it unto the stranger that is in your gates, that he may eat it, or you may sell it unto an alien. For you are a Kadash people unto Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall not see the kid in his mother's milk. You shall truly tithe all the increase of your seed that the field bring forth year by year. And you shall eat before Yahuwah Elohim in the place which he shall choose to place his name there. So boom. Now when we know the true place he places his name there, we know that this is Jerusalem. We know that you can't come before this man with your hands empty. Let's continue. You shall eat, and you say you shall bring the tithe of your corn, of your wine, of your oil, the firstlings of your herd and your flocks, that you may learn to fear Yahuwah your Elohim always. If the way be too long for you, so you're not able to carry it, or if the place be too far for you, which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose to set his name there, when Yahuwah your Elohim bless you, you shall turn it into money and bind up the money in your hand, and you shall go into the place which Yahuwah your Elohim shall choose. And you shall bestow that money for whatsoever your soul lust after, oxen, sheep, wine, strong drink, whatsoever your soul desire. And you shall eat before Yahuwah your Elohim and shall rejoice, you and your household. The Levite that was in your gates you shall not forsake, for he have no part nor inheritance with you. At the end of 3 years you shall bring forth all the tithe of your increase the same year, and you shall lay it within your gates. And the Levite, because he have no part nor inheritance with you, the stranger, the fathers, the widow, which are within your gates, shall come and shall eat and be satisfied. That Yahuwah your Elohim shall baruch you in the work of your hand which you do. Now this is referring to your tithes. that you got to bring up. Like, remember, right? When he's telling you bringing it to the place that he shall choose, you have to understand that you know that you're dealing with feast days. Come over here to verse 19, Deuteronomy 15. And let's look at him talking about bringing your firstlings. And then we'll also talk about the sacrifices. But we didn't have to spend all night on that, because that's that's a different type of information. But verse 19 of Deuteronomy 15. All the firstling males that of your herd and your flock shall you sanctify unto Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall do no work with the firstling of your bullock, nor shear the firstling of your sheep. You shall eat it before Yahuwah year by year in the place which Yahuwah shall choose, you and your household. If there be any blemish therein, as if it be lame, blind, or have any ill blemish, you shall not sacrifice it unto Yahuwah your Elohim. You shall eat it within your gates. The unclean and the clean person shall eat it alike, as the roebuck and as the hart. Only you shall not eat the blood thereof, thus you shall pour it upon the ground as water. So again, year by year, this is letting you know these are these feast days. Now he letting you know them firstlings. You got to bring that up. Because remember, if you're sacrificing it, you eat it before Yahuwah. This is the sacrifice. Instead of using that animal to benefit you, you give it as a gift to the king. See, this is what we're not understanding. See, that's not sacrifices just for the getting rid of sin. This man say to give the firstlings of your flock. This is something that could benefit you, but you esteemed it to give it as a gift unto him. Let's look at verse 13, Deuteronomy 16. No, we don't need all that. We don't need all that. Let's go on over here to Genesis chapter 4. Then we'll slide over to Psalms 50. I'll grab that Psalm 51, which he mentioned. Now, notice the key component, what he mentioned, the gift must be fitting for a king. Hold on before we go to Genesis 4. Deuteronomy 17, first and foremost. He said the gift got to be fitting for a king. Deuteronomy 17 and 1. You shall not sacrifice unto Yahuwah your Elohim any bullock or sheep where is blemish, any evil favoredness. This is an abomination under Yahuwah your Elohim. So a gift fit for this king is it has to be without spot, wrinkle, and blemish, because he is without it. See, pause. Romans chapter 12. And 1. Hold on one second, y'all. There we go. Romans 12 and 1. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, Kadash, acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. So you're the gift. And look at what he said that this gift needs to be, not conform to the world. So this is the first evidence that we're looking at this gift. If you're going to offer this gift, it's not going to have any evil favoredness or any blemish in it, because you're not going to be conformed to the world. That's why I mentioned some of this stuff that we talking about is for. If we say we the sons and daughters of Elohim, we the people of Elohim, we cannot be conformed to the way that the world operates and the way that the world views certain issues and matters. You know what I'm talking about? Can't do it. As much as you may want to do it, as much as how you think is relevant or important, it just cannot be done. Not with proper execution. Because at that point, you still conform to the world. You ain't conform to Elohim. Because at the end of the day, who cares what the world talking about? He's saying be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. Now we're going to look at this now when we go to Genesis chapter 4. And we're going to compare this with Cain and Abel. Before we do that, come over here to Proverbs 15, if you would. 15 and 8. It said, the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to Yahuwah, but the prayer of the upright is his delight. Now let's go to look at Genesis chapter 4. Because we're going to see Cain, and we're going to establish that Cain was wicked. And that's why his sacrifice was an abomination. And it's like how he brings forth, he didn't bring it with a renewed mind, and he would conform to the world. Therefore, that's why it was rejected. He didn't bring a sacrifice fit for a king. Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain and said, I've gotten a man from Yahuwah. She again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. In the process of the time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Yahuwah. Abel, he also brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof, and Yahuwah had respect unto Abel and to his offering. That's why we read that Deuteronomy. Because the law tell you to bring the firstlings, and that's what Abel brought. Cain brought what he wanted to. But we're going to show you that Cain brought that sacrifice with an evil mind. Hold on. Let me finish it out, then I'll grab it. But unto Cain and his offering he had not respect, and Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. First, let me look at respect. Let's look at respect, and let's see what we got here. When we look at respect, it is sha'ar, shan, ayin, and hey. That is the regard, to behold, to look upon, to gaze about, to inspect, to consider. So that's what that means. That means he looked upon one sacrifice and didn't look upon another. Come back to the book of Proverbs. I want to say chapter 22. Whole Genesis photo. It's Proverbs 21 that I desire. It's 21. 21 and 26. Proverbs 21 and 26. He covet greedily all the day long, but the righteous give and spare not. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when he bring it with a wicked mind? Now look at this here, right? He said the sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more of an abomination when he brings it with a wicked mind? Now I want us to look at wicked mind so we can fully understand what it means to come to this man with a wicked mind. What is a wicked mind? What does that mean? Well, when we look at wicked mind, we have Zim, Ma, Zayin, Meen, and Hey. This is a person that is evil, has an evil device, an evil plan, a mischievous purpose, idolatry, harlotry, adultery. Someone who is specifically trying to perform a heinous crime and mischief on purpose. Let's look and see if Cain came and brought that with a wicked mind. 1 John chapter 3, verse 11. You can make it 10. First John 3 and 10. In this the sons of Elohim are manifest, and the sons of the devil. Whosoever do not righteousness is not of Elohim, neither he that love not his brother. Now let's pause. He say he that love not his brother. Let's go to Genesis chapter 4 again. Pick it up at verse 5 again. He said, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. So remember, this is one, Yahuwah look on one and don't look on the other. So he's accepted one, he's rejected the other. Yahuwah said unto Cain, why are you wroth? Why is your countenance falling? Just so y'all know what the Hebrew word for wrath is, because that means wrath in English means he's angry, he's upset. Yahuwah asking him, what you mad for? Now this is kara, this is to be furious, to heat oneself up in vexation, to be extremely angry. Also to be jealous, to be displeased. So look at this, there's jealousy in the midst. I heard somebody saying something about jealousy, man. What they were trying to refer that to, that junk ain't even make no sense. You know what I'm talking about? But jealousy is always going to arise. See, that's one of the parts that we have in regards with our people to this day, is that the women are jealous and envious and competing with their man. As a man, don't never find yourself competing with no woman. If that woman want to compete with you, she need to get out here and be a man and let her compete and take care of herself. Simple as that. Got no business competing with no woman. That don't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Now, the text done told you this. I done told you this. It's a few brothers that done mentioned this here, man. You can't really be worried about what no woman doing or what they ain't doing. They only do what we allow them to do. And if they want to allow to operate outside the confines of what you have set, you depart. Because that's all that Yahuwah going to do. I done told you numerous times. You just have to move how Yahuwah going to do. He has the confines. If nobody wants to operate in it, that's fine. See, this is our biggest problem. We like to do things, but you don't get to determine the consequence of what you choose to do. When you have interdynamics with others, you don't get to choose it. You don't get to choose it. See, when you're dealing with the king, you don't get to choose how the king gonna interact with you, because he's the king. Always remember that the king doesn't have need of you. You have need of the king, because you want the king to do for you. The king don't want you to do for him. Yahuwah don't want you to do nothing for him. We're going to read it in Psalm 50 in a minute. Verse 7, Genesis 4. If you do well, shall you not be accepted? But if you do not well, sin lie at the door, and unto you shall be his desire, and you shall rule over him. Now, this is the key thing. And the fourth is doing well. Yatab, that which is well, that which is pleasing, that which makes the thing good or right. See, when it came down to it, Cain didn't want to perform. So he thought he could just bring anything. But the thing was, is he brought anything, and he brought it with a wicked mind in the first place, and then got mad because the man wouldn't take it. What kind of crap is that? How you going to approach the king like that? You know how entitled you got to be to approach a king like that? Remember, we've already established from Psalm 24 that Yahuwah is the king, and this is how he approached his king. Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass. I don't have an NIV. When they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel, and his brother slew him. Now come on over here to 1 John chapter 3, man. Notice what he said, neither he that loved not his brother. So that means he didn't love his brother from the get-go. He didn't love his brother from the get-go. That's why he could kill him. That's how we know he brought a sacrifice with a wicked mind. That's why he didn't. Can't bring no gift like that to the king. Verse 11, 10-fold. For this is the message that you heard from the beginning, that we should love one another, not as Cain, who was of that wicked one and slew his brother. And wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil and his brothers were righteous. Marvel not, my brethren, if the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death unto life because we love the brethren. He that loved not his brother abide in death. Whosoever hate his brother is a murderer. And yet you know that no murderer have eternal life abiding in him. Hereby perceive we the love of Elohim, because he laid down his life for us. We ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. See, as simple as that. That man hated his brother. So you know the love of Elohim ain't in him. See, this is the thing that's why I always reference this stuff, is how, especially in these quote unquote modern times, how black men and black men interact, black men and black women interact, just how black people interact, period. There's no love there. You know what I'm saying? There is no love there. And then everybody is looking to fill an emotional void of what they perceive love to be. But genuine, pure love is not there. And when genuine, pure love is manifested, people don't want it because it doesn't satisfy the emotional dopamine high that they're seeking to feel from their emotions being sustained. You have to know that. I know some of y'all went to school. Y'all educated people. You know, I dropped out. I ain't finished. You know what I'm talking about? I decided they weren't cutting enough checks, man. Dope was doing too good. You know what I'm saying? That's how I felt at the time. But at the end of the day, y'all should notice that when it comes to certain emotional responses, there's hormonal releases in your brain, which is why certain emotional events in your life, that's why you remember them vividly. And that's why you can revert back to the same emotion that you had in that moment because of the triggering of that high. You remember that high. You remember it. That dopamine get released, you remember it. That's why a lot of people do a lot of things chasing feelings. Feelings, it's no different than a crackhead. Most crackheads out here, man, they hit that first rock, have them so doggone high, and every rock they smoke after that, they were chasing that first high that could never be captured. And most people out here is chasing an emotional high that can never be captured. So you take yourself and you recycle yourself through many, many events over and over and over again because you're chasing something that can never be fulfilled. I understand. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at that. We have to look at that because you can't chase emotion. You can never fulfill that. It's fleeting. It's impossible. It's impossible. It is absolutely impossible. It cannot be done. There's no fulfillment in emotions. There's none. It's none. It's not going to happen. They're very, very deceitful. See, the emotion of jealousy rose up in Cain and it deceived him. The welling up of pride, that's an emotion. All because these are things that are of the flesh. That's why they're emotions. That's of the flesh. They're going to deceive you. Oh, no, I don't got one of those. No, I ain't got one of those. You know what I'm saying? They're going to deceive you. They're going to get you. You know what I'm talking about? So we have to look at that. Because the reason why, by the grace of Elohim, that I'm even pressing and stressing that the time is drawing closer and closer where you're going to have to operate in the Ruach exclusively. We already need to be doing that anyway. You know what I'm talking about? But the time is coming to where if you allow your emotions to creep in on any matter, you're going to give the adversary room to get you in these days of temptation that are drawing near upon us. And you can't afford for that to happen. Because it's going to draw you away. And I'm telling you, it's a lot of things that you think that could get your soul exterminated that you don't regard as important that are going to get your soul exterminated. Because as a man, we know we're supposed to be conducting ourselves in a royal fashion. But see, one thing about a king is going to give to his constituents based off of what his constituents give to him. See, Cain gave the king substandard effort, so the king had nothing for him. See, most of us feel like no matter what level of effort we bring forth to Yahuwah, he gonna take it. That is your example. Remember, all things are written aforetime were written for our learning, that through the scriptures we might have hope. So this stuff was written so we can learn. And we should learn that if we do not come and bring this man our best, if we don't come and give the effort that is due to the king of the earth, if we say this man is the king of kings and lord of lords, then we need to bring this man what is worthy to be given unto a king. Notice that the things that are given unto the king is the firstling of your flocks, meaning your best. You give him your best. You don't give him, when you give him anything less than your best, you're telling him that's all he's worth. Now, we just read this passage. He say, man, if anybody love his brother, he done passed from death unto life. It ain't nothing to love your brother. If you love your God, It ain't nothing to love your brother. Now, that video I shared, I think that I shared that with y'all. I told y'all this last week with that lady from the Crimson Cure. I think she a Muslim. I don't know what she is. I know she put a little thing on her head. But she referenced something that she say most women don't do, which is what most people don't do. We just read it in Colossians, and that's forbearance, which is the long suffering. Most people ain't got no long suffering. Most people don't forgive. Most people hold grudges. Most people do not put forth the effort to reconcile. That's what we were talking about for atonement, for us to understand that. He said, hey, 70 times 7. See, no, most people do not do that, and that is the character of the man whose house you're seeking to dwell in. This man said, in my Abba's house, there's many mansions, many dwellings, many tabernacles. And he's preparing a place for you, but you can't prepare a place for him to dwell in your temporary tabernacle so you can abide in your permanent one. Because we have all these things that don't allow this stuff, because we walk around with all these emotional scars, all these feelings and grudges and all that type of stuff that does not allow you to be the best version of yourself, which is to be in the image of the Son of the living Elohim, who is blessed forever. Doesn't allow you to do it. See, I've told y'all this before. Women don't have to be the best version of themselves because nobody's pushing you to. See, if the man pushes you to, you feel like he's being this, that, there, and the third. Your mammies ain't doing it. Your grandparents ain't doing it. Your friends ain't doing it. So you don't feel the need to improve. So you feel like where you're at, that is sufficient. Men don't have no choice to improve because he's getting pressure from everyone around him, pressure from himself, pressure from his peers, pressure from people he do business with, pressure from his spouse, pressure from his offspring, that he has to become the best version of himself. He doesn't have an option. Failure cannot be an option for a man who seeks to provide something, a legacy for his offspring and bring honor and esteem to his Elohim. He has to improve. He cannot remain stagnant. He does not have that option. He doesn't have that option. This is why we told you this before. That's why most people, when they come in the word, and that pressure to perform from Yahuwah is manifested through his text, that's why they crumple on it, because you're going to have to perform. See, most of us have never been told that you're going to have to produce, and you're going to have to produce at a high level. That's why most people don't last in anything, because they don't have the discipline, but most importantly, they don't have the desire, the insatiable hunger and desire to produce results congruent in the vocation and occupation of which they currently reside. They don't have a desire to do it. And when you don't have a desire to produce, you're always going to be mediocre or below average. And the problem with this society, especially for young men, is that they're mediocre and below average and think that they should get the benefits from men who are above average or elite. And that's not how life works. You can't get the benefits of the upper echelon and you're not doing upper echelon things. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. Let's return. Where do I need to go at now? Give me a moment to get my thoughts together. Let's look at a king doesn't just rule his territory. He owns it. We talked about this a few weeks ago. Leviticus chapter 24. And I think I want Deuteronomy 32. I think Deuteronomy 32 is what I need. Let me make sure. Deuteronomy 32 don't say that. It's in my brain. I can hear it clear as day. Yeah, there it is. Where I was going at. Leviticus chapter 24. I think I want verse 20. Let's establish that the earth belongs to Yahuwah. Oh, yep, there we go. Leviticus 24 and 22. After that, Exodus 19. Leviticus 24 and 22. You shall have one manner of law as well for the stranger, as for one of your own country. Nah, that's not what I wanted. Dang, what that junk had, man. I know that junk in chapter 24. Just looking at it. Or is it 25? It's 25. I'm sorry. 25 and 23. My apologies. Leviticus 25 and 23. The land shall not be sold forever. The land is mine. For you are strangers and sojourners with me. He's letting you know that he possesses it and then he owns it. Exodus 19. You can pick it up at verse 4. Let's get another witness that all that belongs to the earth. After that, Isaiah 45. Yeah, Isaiah 45. I'll praise you. That was even better. Isaiah 45 was even better. Exodus 19 and 4. You have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, how I bare you on eagle's wings and brought you unto myself. Now, therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed, keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. All of it belongs to the king. We'll get the Hebrew word for mine so we can leave no doubt. You can go to Isaiah 45 and about verse 14. And why is it important that it's all that belongs to the king? Mine is ane, which stands for me, mine. It is a first person singular used for emphasis, aleph, noon, and yod. Why is that important? Because when you know that the king owns and controls it, then you understand that he has dominion and rule. When he has dominion and rule, you give him the proper reverence. Because that means if he has dominion and rule, then he's going to be beneficial to you. Therefore, if he's being beneficial to you, it would behoove you to be beneficial to him. These are all the things contained when it's talking about the dynamic of the body, how the husband's supposed to treat the wife and the wife is supposed to treat the husband. That's why all this stuff is enumerated. We talked about this before. It's for the manifestation of the kingdom of heaven. But both parties have to be willing to play their part. And that's what we don't have as a people. I ain't talking about just people in the word. I'm talking about black people, period. Nobody wants to play their part. Because one person feels like their part is more important than the others, or the other person doesn't feel like they need to play their role. And when you have that, you're going to have let's go sit back and look at that. You can pick it up at verse 11, actually. You're going to have an imbalance. That's why our people are imbalanced. Because the man doesn't feel like he needs to provide. And when we talk about provision, not just financially, he doesn't feel like he needs to provide anything to this woman. This woman doesn't feel like she needs to honor him and serve him and reverence him. She doesn't feel like she needs to do any of this. The children see this and grow up and repeat it. And then the curses that you see in Deuteronomy 28 that refer to the dynamic between the male and the female and the offspring that would be like this is shown forth that Yahuwah is the living Elohim. Because exactly what he said would occur because both parties have an evil eye against the other. Then when you take that and you conflate it, you know what I'm saying, with the mental conditioning and the societal pressures of a ungodly and unjust system. And when I say system, I'm not just talking about a governmental system. I'm talking about a societal system that is designed and just cajoled to the purpose of converting people over to a mindset that is not conducive for the execution of family. It leads to pure and utter chaos. Because now you have a bunch of people who are operating by feelings, and feelings is nothing but chaotic. There is no structure, no order, no discipline contained in feelings. None of those things feelings are a selfish endeavor. Because when you say I'm in my feelings, that means you're only concerned with yourself. See, men can be in their feelings, but then they would have to understand and know that I can't stay in my feelings, being concerned with me when I have a family. So it means I have to put me to the side because these people are greater than my feelings. Men have to do that. I'm not saying that most men do that. I'm saying that men have to do that. They have to put their feelings to the side to benefit the family. Again, referencing the greatest verse of greatest importance for us to understand the point of what I'm referring to. Not my will be done, but your will be done. Let me put my feelings to the side because I have to benefit the family. My feelings, my flesh say, I don't want to die. But that's me being selfish and not selfless. So therefore, I have to put that to the side because I have to benefit the family. My family can't afford for me to be selfish at this time. See, we want to point out women being selfish. Women are selfish by nature. That's a given. You should already know that. That's why I told you, brothers, the other day, you have to get that up out of them early. You cannot allow that to persist. I heard a brother, matter of fact, we were listening to this earlier, and the brother ain't told no lie. You wonder why your daughters are not feminine and masculine? Because men are having their daughters do stuff that boys do. Daughters don't need to be playing basketball. Daughters don't need to be boxing. Daughters don't need to be running track. Daughters don't need to be doing any of those things if you expect her to be feminine. You know what I'm talking about? We put little girls in masculine spaces and then complain about women being masculine. And that is our fault that the little girl is masculine. You set her up to be masculine. Why is your daughter in boxing classes? Now you telling her that she could have the thought process that she could come up and knuckle up with a dude? Because you've been training her to be a dude all her life. Now when she gets with a man, she don't know how to be a woman because she's been a dude for 15, 16 years. Now she's 23, she thinks she's a man. Now we have to look at all that type of stuff, man. You got a lot of dudes who do that. They want his sons and treat their daughter like boys. Now she can't get no man. You know what I'm talking about? Because she thinks she is one. So she's leading with masculine components. You got niggas around here talking about telling their daughters they can play football. Don't tell that little girl some junk like that. That's the most aggressive sport outside of boxing and MMA that anyone can participate in. Why would you send a woman in that type of arena and then expect her to be able to be submissive and feminine to a man in a testosterone violent competitive field? Women aren't supposed to be competitive. You know what I'm saying? They're not supposed to be competitive. They're supposed to be complementary. Men are supposed to compete. Women aren't supposed to compete. Because when it leads to competition, it's going to lead to masculinity. She's not going to respect her husband. She's going to see him as something to defeat, something to prove that she's better than. We don't think that stuff means something till you grow up and see the results of it. And you see it with all these women, 35 and younger. They scarred in the brain because they were raised to be men. Isaiah 45 and 11. And I'm saying this here because I told you the onus always on us. This is the difference also that we don't like to deal with. If a woman's behavior is not acceptable, don't accept it. If your offspring's behavior is not acceptable, don't accept it. You just can't accept it just to keep the peace. But when you come to it, you have to maintain masculine frame. No need to spaz out. No need to get emotional. That quote the other day where it was stating that a man being vulnerable, he can be vulnerable with his mother because his mother's instinct is going to kick in to protect, but he can't have that same vulnerability with his woman because her instinct for him to protect her she's going to question it. She's going to question it. We were talking about this the other day, man. Women think dudes don't have conversations about their feelings and emotions and all the things that going through them. They do. They just don't include you in them. Just because you not included don't mean that it don't happen. And that again comes from the aspect of this society that women feel like they have to be included in everything that men do. And that's not the way of a society is set up. Women aren't included in what men do. What men do is what men do. And that's none of a woman's concern. You don't need to be concerned what a man is doing. You don't need to be concerned with nothing. You need to be concerned with what you're supposed to do. What a man's doing is what men is doing. Because if you want to be concerned with what a man's doing, then you're going to have to be concerned with the consequences and repercussions and responsibilities that come along with being a man, which is why you don't concern yourself with what Elohim is doing. That's why David said, I don't exercise myself in things too high for me. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Because if I want to exercise myself in those matters, then that means I'm going to have to take on the responsibility and accountability of being Elohim. And I'd rather not. Isaiah 45 and 11. Thus saith Yahuwah, the Kadash one of Yasharal, his maker. Ask me of things to come concerning my sons and concerning the work of my hands. Command you me? I have made the earth and created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their hosts have I commanded. I raised him up in righteousness. I will direct all his ways. He shall build my city. He shall let go my captives, not for price nor reward, saith Yahuwah of hosts. We already seen that when we were reading that in Acts. He said, not for price. Hold on now. Y'all know he raised them up in righteousness. Y'all know he talking about Mashiach. If you didn't know, now you know. He said, all his ways will he direct, because my father gave me a commandment, what I should say and what I should do. He will build his city, which is Jerusalem, and he will let go of his captives. See, that's another aspect of what we're talking about with tabernacles, the freeing of the captives, freeing you from the prison house so that you could enter into your house. Captives, if you remember, we talked about this a long time ago. This is Galuth. This is someone who has been exiled, someone who has been carried away. Gamal, Lamad, U, and Tau. Remember, that's all captivity means, is to be exiled. If you're exiled, it means you're separated. He said to let go of those who have been exiled. And he said, and he's going to let go of his captives, not for price nor reward. The same way that they thought that man thought he could buy the Ruach HaKodesh, you can't buy the gift of Elohim. It's not for sale. It's not for sale. Let's continue. Verse 14, thus saith Yahuwah, the labor of Egypt, and the merchandise of Ethiopia and of the Sabians, men of stature, shall come over unto you. They shall be yours. They shall come after you. In chains they shall come over. They shall fall down unto you, and they shall make supplication unto you, saying, surely Elohim is in you, and there is none else. There is no Elohim. He said, I know you. What he say? Behold, I make them of the synagogue of Satan, and they shall fall down at your feet and worship you, that you may know that I have loved you. See, this is the thing, right? Come over here to Revelation 3 and 9, man, because he just told you that right here, man. I still ain't get that Leviticus 17 either, man. You were willing, I'm going to get around that to it. See, this is again showing you the power of the king. Since all the earth is his, he can make anybody fall down in reverence and honor to whomever he desires and whomever he wills, because he is the king. Kings can do that. Revelation 3 and 7. I'm telling you, man, I praise Yahuwah. Like I said, man, it's finna get real out here, man. And I ain't talking about just real in the aspect of dealing with the beast. You understand? I'm talking about real as forth as pressure and manipulation for you to operate outside of the Yahuwah Elohim ordained role that has been given unto all of his servants. Before you go to even talking about the temptation of serving the devil, because you already have a strong temptation in the earth pulling you to not operate in your role. We've already talked about this many times. We just read it in Chronicles the other day. You got to do things with delight in your heart. He said you got to do it as doing it as unto the Lord. And most people don't do things as unto the Lord. You do it begrudgingly. And you doing a Cain, he ain't going to take it. I told you before, man, a lot of women going to be rejected from Yahuwah, and not for the matters of what they think they're going to be rejected for. A lot of men going to be rejected by Yahuwah, and not for the things that they think that they're going to be rejected for. A lot of people going to be rejected for piss poor service. And that piss poor service is going to be rooted in pride. And that's why you're going to be continue to be exiled. A lot of y'all like to go, some of y'all like to go to restaurants frequently. Some of y'all like to go to restaurants occasionally. Some of y'all like to go to restaurants sparingly. Now, why did I mention that in those three situations? Somebody who goes to a restaurant sparingly is not going to be overly concerned with the level of service that they receive. Someone who goes to restaurants occasionally, they'll somewhat care, but it won't be that big of a bother. Someone who goes to a restaurant regularly is going to be overly concerned. And when I say overly concerned, not in a negative or pejorative way, but greatly concerned with the level of service that they receive. Because this is something that they do constantly and consistently. So the level of service is something that they value. See, when you do something sparingly or occasionally, you don't value it the same as someone who does it consistently. See, if you consistently serve Yahuwah, then you're going to value the service that you're giving unto Yahuwah because you value the service that he's giving unto you. See, when you serve occasionally or sparingly, you're not going to give the best, and then you're not going to get nothing from the king. This is why people don't get the Ruach, because you have to outgive the king. You have to give the king so the king can outgive you. And see, him giving you is not material. You can get material and he don't fool with you. That's what people don't understand. You can get material wealth and Yahuwah don't fool with you at all. And you thinking because your desires are being met that he fool with you. But you're not getting the things where he's outshining what you're getting. Like, what are you really giving him? What are you giving him? What are you giving to the man who has authority over you? You have to look at it. What are you giving your husband? That's male or female. I'm talking now before we even get into natural. Because the woman has to look at what you giving your husband. What are you actually giving him to what he's rendering? Do you delight to serve, or do you just do it out of obligation? That's what I be talking to y'all about Sabbaths and feast days. You doing it because you delight, or you doing it out of obligation? Because if you're just doing it out of obligation, don't no real man want that. A man who out here doing what he's supposed to do to be able to give you the things that you desire, he don't want that. He don't want no obligatory service. That junk's trash. You're not doing it from your heart. Why would I want that? Why would you want somebody? That's the Sabbath. I got to be here. Oh, his tabernacles, I got to be here. It's not a delight to you. That man don't want that. That's what you're supposed to learn from Cain and Abel. One delighted to serve and one did not. One valued the king and one did not. And that man didn't want that. And the one who valued the king gets up being envied by the person who didn't. And again, that's showing you spirit and flesh. You have to look at that. You got to understand that because you're dealing with a king. I know most of us, we ain't used to that. You're dealing with a king. You're not dealing with a regular dude. This man greater than any man you ever met. He greater than your daddy, your granddaddy, your uncles. He's greater than all that. You're not going to do this man any kind of way. You're not going to do this man any kind of way. You ain't going to bring this man anything to think he going to look at it and be happy because you brought it. Nigga, who is you? And that's our problem. You feel like because you did something, you supposed to get patted on your back. Nigga, that's your reasonable service, nigga. What you mean? That's what you supposed to do. You don't get no credit for doing what you supposed to do. But if you do it with a heart where it can be seen that you're doing it with joy and excitement and you relish the opportunity to fulfill your duty, that man gonna outdo for you what you. I've been telling you women that for years. Y'all still don't catch on to it. That if you do it with joy and delight, the man is going to give you what you want times 10. He gonna have to outdo you. He not gonna be able to let you outshine him. Ain't no king finna let you outdo him. At that point, I ain't the king, and y'all don't understand that. We were talking about that the other day. What I was Tuesday night. They around here talking trash because that woman gave that rapper dude 30 acres of land. She did this here. Man, look here, man. I've been to you this here. Chick break bread with you, man. She's solid. I don't care if it was your money or not. We know we busted ladies' balls by man, that was your husband money. But at the end of the day, you thought to buy him something with it instead of buying yourself something with it. And we have to acknowledge that. Come on, you women ain't gonna do nothing for a nigga. You want him to do something for you, and you think meals and coochie is sufficient. Don't nobody want no chicken and coochie. You got to give me more than that. That ain't hitting on nothing. That's standard operation. That's standard operation. You're not doing anything. See, the reverse of that word wise, you just showing up, couple hallelujahs and go home. Boy, you ain't did nothing, boy. Boy, you got whole hatred in your heart for your brother, man. You're filled up with pride, filled up with fear, you're filled up with unbelief, you're filled up with doubt. You got all that going on, man. You got hatred and strife and contention in your heart, and you think showing up is sufficient. That meant something. You didn't do it because it delighted your heart to do it. You did it because you felt like you had to. You didn't do it because you wanted to. You didn't look forward to it. It didn't motivate you to move. And you have to sit back and look at that, and everybody has to assess themselves like that, because if you serve like that, your children are watching you. Your children are watching you, and they're going to serve like that. And that's going to be your fault, because they learned that from you. They learned that from you. They watched your service, and they're going to mimic your service. So when your daughter grow up to be a lackluster wife, that woman can look herself in the mirror and say, it's my fault that my daughter is a useless and trash can wife. If your son grew up to be a trash can husband, you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm the reason my son is a horrible husband. That's my fault. When they have lackluster service to Yahuwah, you're going to have to say, I set my son up to have lackluster service to Yahuwah because I had it, because I didn't have the passion for it, the dedication and the discipline to focus and make sure he focused. Make sure he pay attention. That's your only duty in life. Is to teach it to your sons. That's your duty in life. Because and why I say that's your only duty, because I know some would be like, the whole duty of man is to keep his commandments. He commanded you to teach his sons, for the smart ones in the back. Nevertheless, Revelation 3:7. And the Malachim of the house in Philadelphia write, these things say of he that is Kadash, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that opened and no man shut, and shut and no man open. I know your works. Behold, I've set before you an open door. No man can shut it. For you had a little strength and kept my word and have not denied my name. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Hashatan, which say they are Yahudim and are not, but do lie. And I will come and make them come to worship before your feet to know that I have loved you. See, that's what we read in Isaiah 45. Now, Yahushua going to let you know, I'm going to make these people come down now and worship at your feet so you can know that I loved you. Because he got to outdo you. Because you were worshiping at his feet. He said, I'm going to come make your enemies worship at yours so you know I loved you. Because I can't let you outdo me. See, some people sit back and look at that. That's an ego thing. That's a pride thing. No, that's a king thing right there, son. See, you're not going to understand that. See, somebody who don't have a delight and the desire to serve those who serve him, they ain't going to understand that. You already going to look at it, boy. If your old lady come through and she grabs you this here, you already know. I can't let her do me like that there now. You know what I'm talking about? I can't let her come through. I'm going to have to come. And you ain't coming bigger and better because you feel like this is a competition on some old sappy romantic type stuff. You talking about this woman coming showing you how she value you as her king. How she value you as her Lord, as Sarah said. How she value you as her ruler. She said, this is the man who got authority over me. I appreciate this man. I have gratitude toward this man. Let me show him the value that I have for him. He going to turn around and say, I can't let her outdo me. See, we could go read that Matthew 28. The men fell down. He said, all hell, they bowed down and worshiped him. So get what he said. No, I'm going to bring your enemies. I can't, y'all, you can't give me that type of gift and don't think I give you one better. See, while you were coming bringing bullocks and lambs, he said, that's the gift you bringing. Yahuwah said, I'm going to come back around. I'm going to give you a gift better than that. That's why I asked y'all about the gifts earlier and the presents, because your offerings and your sacrifices was your gift to Yahuwah. So he had to one up you. Let's take a look at it. Well, I guess we read it the other day. Y'all know what Romans 6 say. Y'all know what Romans 5 say. What is the free gift and the gift of eternal life, which is in the body of Yahushua HaMashiach our Lord. So you have to look at that because you were given gifts. Right? You had to come up every Passover. I ain't even finished verse 16 of Isaiah 45. My apologies. You got to come up every Passover, every Pentecost, every tabernacles and bring a gift. Everyone, you got to bring it. And he said, I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to gift you with me. Because if you bring a gift to the king got to outdo you. That's what we're talking about, ain't it? We're talking about a multitude of things with a king. Because look what we said, right? Royal protocol requires that that a gift must be presented when you visit a king. The law done already stated that. You can't come before this man empty. Zechariah 14 say everybody got to come up for tabernacle and everybody got to bring something. That's why that Revelation tell you about them bringing their honor and esteem unto it. That man can't come. That's why that Psalm 68 and 29 tell you that for your temple in Jerusalem, they bringing gifts. Them people can't come in there with nothing, with empty handed talking about, oh, I ain't know that. That's disrespect. See, most of us don't even realize that. That's disrespect. What's that junk over there? Yep. That's it right there. That's it right there. That's it right there. So live. Right there, because of your temple at Jerusalem, shall kings bring presents unto you. That's what Psalm 68 and 29 says. Who sit in the temple? The king sit in the temple. You can't visit no king and not bring him no gift. Man, your forefathers had enough sense to bring gifts to prophets. They ain't even want to, because they looking at it stepping to the prophet. They were stepping to Yahuwah, which means they were stepping to the king, and they wasn't coming to the king empty-handed. Now, of course, men have exploited that and use that to their advantage for their greed and for their lust. But you get the gist of what I'm talking about. Isaiah 45 and 15 one more time. Or 14, I'm sorry. Thus saith Yahuwah, the labor of Egypt, merchandise of Ethiopia and of the Sabians. Men of stature shall come over unto you. And they shall fall down unto you. In chains they shall come over, and they shall make supplication unto you, saying, surely Elohim is in you, and there is none else. There is no Elohim. Truly, you are Elohim that hides yourself, O Elohim of Yasharal, the Savior. They shall be ashamed and confounded, all of them. They shall go in confusion together that are makers of idols. But Yasharal shall be saved in Yahuwah with an everlasting salvation. You shall not be ashamed or confounded, world without end. For thus saith Yahuwah that created the heavens, Elohim himself that formed the earth and made it. He established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am Yahuwah. There is none else. I have not spoken in secret or in a dark place of the earth. I said not unto the seed of Jacob, seek you me in vain. I, Yahuwah, speak righteousness. I declare the things that are right. So we have a righteous king. You already know we mention this verse all the time. You know what I'm saying? He that ruleth amongst men must be just. You have a just king. I mean, that's a righteous king, and he hard, but he fair. See, a lot of people, they think that the man's soft or you want him to be soft. He's a hard man, Paul, but he's fair. He's fair. You understand? And all hard means is that he's austere, rigorously self-disciplined, and uncompromising. He's not compromising this, that, and the third. But the reason why he can do that is because he's not operating out of emotion. Emotions can be manipulated. That's why men can never operate in them. Again, I said operate. And this is something you could check the tape. I've been saying this stuff for years. It's not a new thing. It's something that I learned over time through my own life experiences and what I was directly taught by men of whom I respect greatly. That you can't make decisions based off of emotions. You're a pure jackass if you make decisions based off of emotions. You know what I'm saying? You can't even call yourself an adult if you make decisions based off of emotions. You're a child. You know what I'm saying? That's what children do. And that means if you're an adult who makes decisions based off of emotions, I mean, you're not even fit to be a parent, much less a spouse. You know what I'm saying? You ain't fit because you have nothing relevant to give to anyone because you're dictated by how you feel. You're on the same level as the child. Children did move on how they feel. Grown men ain't got no business operating on how they feel. That makes no sense. You can't effectively lead in such a fashion. Now, I can't tell you if you feel some level of emotions welling through your body, through your mind, through your body, through your spirit, or whatever the case may be, then you have to sit down and you have to assess what those emotions are, where those emotions are coming from, and allow them to subside before you sit back and you make a major decision that's going to ruin your life. That's the hallmark of masculinity. The hallmark of masculinity is the ability to control one's emotions. Because you have to look at that. If you're emotional, you're teaching your son to be like that. How is he going to effectively subdue his surroundings? He's not going to be able to do it. He's not going to be able to do it. It's like this here. The only thing you can do with a girl is just to help her understand her emotions, if possible. That's all you can do. Because they're going to be emotional. That's just what it is. And a lot of times their emotions are just rooted in the things that they selfishly desire. A lot of times their feelings just be hurt. And at the end of the day, you'll get over it. Because ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time to placate feelings. Now, if you done injury to somebody purposely, then of course you're going to have to deal with their feelings. You're going to have to deal with their feelings because you caused injury to them. You're going to have to deal with that. But if you ain't caused no injury, ain't nobody got no time for that. Ain't nobody got no time for that. But as I try to do with the children as much as possible, if anything, man, you catch somebody in an emotional state, the best thing you can try to do is try to get them to relax. If you can get somebody to relax when they're emotional, they can calm down and they can think rationally and logically. If they're not calm, they can't think. And when you can't think, ain't need no sense of proceeding. Ain't nothing positive or functional gonna come from the interaction. Now, we've kind of talked about this third point on the principles of giving to a king that the gift reveals. But also you're giving to the king the acknowledgement that he owns everything. Let's look at Psalms 50. I ain't gonna hold y'all too long this evening. I got to return back to Psalm 61 because that's our basis of everything this evening. Just because we coming back what? Y'all will tomorrow afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, plus Saturday afternoon, Sunday night. I mean, we got a lot of back-to-backs. And so I'm not going to try to go too long and jam too much information when we got a lot of back-to-backs. Especially y'all will the next Shabbat, because that's going to be a double up. So basically, 4 times in a 48-hour span. So we have to keep that in mind. But Psalms 50, right? 50 and 7. Hear, O my people, and I will speak, O Yasharal. I will testify against you. I am Elohim, even your Elohim. I will not reprove you for your sacrifices or your burnt offerings to have been continually before me. I will take no bullock out of your house, nor he-goats out of your folds. For every beast of the forest is mine, and a cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine and the fullness thereof. Will I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer unto Elohim thanksgiving and pay your vows unto the Most High. And call upon me in the day of trouble, and I will deliver you, and you shall esteem me. Now that references the verse that Darius mentioned in Psalm 51, the broken and contrite heart. And y'all willing, maybe we'll go back and examine more of those things on tomorrow and looking at the gifts that you can give. Because he's going to outgive you, and we know that outgiving you is he's giving you the Ruach HaKodesh, aka eternal life and an eternal kingdom. He's going to outgive you. But what are you going to give him? Because you got to give a gift that's fit for a king. And you got to give something that acknowledges that the king has ownership over everything. And you got to understand that if you're going to worship somebody, that demands a gift, and that giving is the worship, because worship is a gift in and of itself. That's where the thanksgiving come in at. That's where that broken heart and that contrite spirit come in at. And again, we'll look at this Hebrew word for worship. We talked about it previously. I'll reference it to you real quick, like right now. And you have this one here. You have shakah. That's to bow down. Somebody have homage to someone who is superior to you. Obeisance, to humbly reverence. Sean, Kot, and Hay. And that's what you have to sit back and look at, that you reverence a king and reverence the man. You're going to give gifts to whom you reverence. See, unfortunately, most of our women in this society, they're not taught to reverence a man. So you don't have that level of respect that you're supposed to. Because you feel like he's supposed to do all the chasing and get your respect when you're supposed to respect him. See, one of the key components that this society don't understand, a woman who reverences and honors and esteems her man is going to get way more than a woman who. That's why you have so many miserable women out here, because they ain't been told what to do. They don't even know how to interact with a man. Most of y'all ain't never been taught or instructed how to interact with no man. Your whole basis of interaction is from your friends and from television and from your own vain and foolish mind of what you think that you should talk to and interact with a man. And that's why most of our women are in the state that they in. They either alone or got children from lesser men. You know what I'm saying? And then you got children from lesser men and you want a greater man to come through and help you with the children of a lesser man. And then they get upset when these young niggas don't want to do it. And that's our fault as men to allow a society and culture like that to even exist. The way your daughters could end up in a situation like that. Yeah, they made their choices and decisions to go the route that they went, but we allowed that environment to be able to be built that they could even participate in such folly. See, we would have to take responsibility for that on our end, that we've allowed that environment to even exist. Can't allow that environment to exist and then look at the women crazy and talk about them. You let it happen. You let it happen. You didn't have to let it happen. You chose to let it happen. And this is the byproduct of it. Now you have to do a reset. And the reset going to be ugly. That reset going to be ugly because some people going to have to get left behind. That's male and female. Some people can't go on this trip. Remember what he told you? Let's look at it. Let's just look at it. Matthew 24. Where we at with it? Oh, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I feel like I'm looking right at it. That's going to piss me off. Dang, I feel like I'm looking right at it. That's pissing me off. And no, we wasn't far enough down. Matthew 24, verse 36. But that day and hour no man know, no not the Malachim and Shamahim, but my Abba only. But as the days of Noah, worse shall be the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, giving in marriage unto the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. There shall be two in the field. The one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill. The one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour the Lord do come. Some people going to get left. And the reason why I wanted to read that one there, because he mentioned men and then he mentioned women, because men and women going to have to get left. It ain't just, oh, women going to get left behind. Let's not be one of them people. Everybody of each gender going to get left behind. Come back to Psalm 61. People going to get left behind. And that's just what happens when you deal with progression. Some people can't come along because some people don't want to progress. You just going to have to get left. That's why I mentioned that last week. As men, you have to realize this here. Well, if your woman, if your kids, if your friends, if your family are not trying to elevate, then you have to leave them behind, and you have to be solely focused on Elohim, on you, and on your purpose. That's it. That's all you can do. That woman don't want to cooperate. Them kids don't want to cooperate. Then, hey, you got to focus on you. Got to focus on you. Got to focus on you. Got to focus on what you building. Because there ain't no time to fool with them. You got to leave them behind. Got to leave them behind. Friends, all that there. You ain't got no time for it. Not if you expect to do anything of note that's going to bring esteem and honor to your family name and to your Elohim. Because at the end of the day, each one of you men, I don't care if you work for yourself or not. That's irrelevant. Everything you do is for your name. Y'all fathers now. I want you to sit back and look at it in the concept of the text. Because screw your last name. If we look at the text, your sons wouldn't have had no last name. So it would have been your son's name, been your name, because he would have been classified that he belongs to this man. You understand? He belongs to this man. That's that man's son. So everything that you're doing for the legacy of your house. That's your house. That's why when we were talking about that, I said a wise woman is going to build the house of her husband. That's why we read that about Ruth. Let her be like Rachel and Leah, who built the house of Jacob, because that woman has to be about building that man's house, not building what she want to build. I'll tell you that right now. I told you this before. Don't no man give a damn about what you got going on, what you doing, because you doing that for you. That don't benefit him. Why does he care? See, this society has told you that this man's supposed to care about what she's doing that benefits her and only her. She's not doing that for the benefit of the house. She's doing that for the benefit of her. So he doesn't care. Now, if you're doing something and that's for the benefit of him, which is the benefit of the house, then he's going to be more engaged. That's where a lot of women in this country get upset. That they say, this man, he doesn't care about what I'm doing. Why would he care? You're not doing that for his house. You're trying to build for yourself. Wise women build their own house. Foolish women tear it down. That means they tear down the man. That's how we know that Yasharal was the foolish woman, because they tore down the house, because they tore down his body. They destroyed their own tabernacle. They destroyed their own tabernacle out of envy and rebellion, because they couldn't do what he was doing. And because they were envious at the abilities that he had, they rebelled against him and purposely destroyed their own house. You got to be a fool to do that. You got to be a fool to do that. We don't even sit back and see that as a people. We did that to our own husband. And that's why you see this manifest with your women. Because I don't care about other races of women. That's not my concern. Those women weren't given unto me. So I can't be concerned with a Caucasian woman. I can't be concerned with an Asian woman. I can't be concerned with a Euro-Latino woman. I can't be concerned with a quote-unquote Middle Eastern woman. I can't be concerned with an African woman. Those women weren't given unto me. I can only be concerned with the daughters of Zion. That was the woman that was given unto me. And I see her manifesting the attitude and behavior that we manifested to the Lord. And it's troubling to the soul, because we still doing it. And I ain't talking about them women. We still doing it. And that's why they're still doing it. And when we stop doing it to him, then they'll stop doing it to us. But until then, we're going to have to suffer that. We're going to have to suffer that. That's what we're going to have to deal with. That's what we're going to have to deal with. Because it doesn't make sense. You have to build your husband's house. See, this is what happens when you get married. When the woman gets married, her life stops. Her life is supposed to be about her man. It's no longer about her anymore. If you want it to be about you, you're going to have to be alone. But if you're going to have to be alone, you're going to have to deal with the pressure of being a provider and protector for yourself. Because you won't have no covering. You'll have the freedom and autonomy to move around and do whatever it is that you want to do. But you're going to have the pressure to provide and protect yourself for the entirety of your days. Because you don't want to sit back and say, I'm going to relinquish my life unto a man. But yet you say that you could come to Yahuwah and relinquish your life to him. Nigga, how? Nigga, how? How is that possible? Because as a man, we got to understand, we got to come and you have to relinquish your life to your husband. It's no longer about you. You got to live to build your husband's house and to fulfill his will and fulfill his vision. That's why that text tell you, I referenced it last week. You want great things for yourself? Seek them not. Because you're supposed to be seeking what's pleasing to your husband, not seeking to please you, not seeking to validate yourself. That means you're a foolish woman. And most of our brothers are foolish women. We say we in the body of Mashiach, but we foolish because the only thing we seeking to do is to build something for ourselves. We're not trying to build the house of Yasharal. You're not trying to build the house of Yahusha. You don't care about building the house of your husband. Your husband is not, so you don't even realize your husband is a king. You're married to a king. You're not married to some Rudy Poot around the corner. You're married to a king. That's a different level of standard that we have going on. You're married to a king. So therefore, if your husband is the son of a king, you're married to a king. So we have to change the narrative, how you look at it. And if you know that you're a king and you're married to a daughter of Zion, then you're supposed to handle her like Abraham handled Sarah. We didn't have these conversations before and all of that. But see, you can't get the treatment from the king if you're not reverencing him as a king. That's not how that works. Now, the king may give you the long suffering and the mercy and the forbearance, but your service is going to have to be on par for you to get the benefit of everything that he has to give, because Yahuwah has plenty to give. But we're not getting. And remember, he said, who going to commit to your trust the true riches when you ain't even faithful over that which is your own? See, I'm trying to get your mind in order, man, because I'm trying to tell you, man, this John bigger than just being married, because you married to Yahuwah. You should know that from Isaiah 54. You married unto Yahuwah, your husband, your maker. Because we got to have this attitude for this spiritual fight that's coming up down this road. And it seems like it's rapidly arising. What you going to do when your money can't buy what it used to be able to buy? What you going to do? You're going to have to be, if you been building up cachet with your king and with your husband, then he's going to be able to sustain you through this time period that's going to be rough financially for millions. You see it on the horizon. You can't be around here skinning and grinning like that junk ain't going to affect you. That means you thinking like a boy, not a man. And I ain't talking about to be like, oh, let's hustle harder and get this and get that. Oh, no. I'm talking about continual investment in the service to your king, to your husband, that he might outdo you because you continually give, offer, sacrifice, and serve him. Because when you do those things, you're showing that he has ownership over you. If that man knows that he has ownership over you, then he's going to make sure that he has proper care over that of which belongs unto him. And the law states that. You already know what the law states. He's supposed to give duty of marriage, food and clothing. The man, he's a man of his word. But hallelujah for Yahushua. That's all I'm really focused on, man. Like this here, man, it's a beautiful thing. We talking about tabernacles, right? That's what we coming up on. So we coming up on the feast for the king. So if we talk about a feast for a king and we saying we want to be at the marriage supper of the Lamb, and it's the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, then we need to start preparing ourselves for as a woman who's married to a king. And I'm glad, praise Yahuwah, that each even shared old Miles Monroe on that, because my brain got sparked all type of ways listening to what he was talking about, to be able to look at that knowing tabernacles was coming around the corner. You know what I'm talking about? Like, boy, you married to a king, and we have to get prepared to be able to come serve a king. Which means we have to have the mentality of somebody who's going to serve the king and delights and desires to serve one. So we have a great king, a merciful king, a righteous king, a just king, a kind and good king, faithful in all his doings. You know what I'm saying? And he's worthy of the subservience and reverence and obedience that such a king should receive. So we need to start training our minds in that regard to be able to give him the proper reverence, honor, and obedience that he deserves. Because I stated, we could give him gifts of offering, of sacrifices, but he gave us the gift of his own. Yeah, he didn't give me the chapter. It was the entirety of it. And it was about dealing with gifts. And I ain't gonna read that whole chapter. I ain't gonna tell you no lie. Because it's talking about don't offer no sacrifices to devils burnt offerings and sacrifices for strangers. And then it ends with the life being in the blood, sprinkling the blood on the altar, stuff like that. But we might come back on it more because we got more, man. I just don't want to have all these doggone videos being extra long, considering there's a multitude coming back to back. But I bless y'all at the house. I'll see you who in the name of Yahushua, man. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. But you know what I'm saying? You have to sit back and look at it, man. It's a beautiful thing, man. And I say training our minds because we're unaccustomed. Like I say no knock on the men or the women of our people, no matter where they reside, whether they're inside the gate or outside the gate. But if you've never served a king, because of course, we use the terminology, what's up, king? Like John was funny, women calling themselves queens. If you say the black man is this, that, there, and the third, you can't be no higher than what he is. You can't be a queen and he ain't no king, because if he ain't no king, you ain't no queen. Because every race of people, woman is beneath them. No race of men's women are equal or above them. Whatever state that man is, that woman is less than that. And that's just reality. You know what I'm saying? That's not personal opinion. That's just reality. And we have to swallow that. See, we have a lot of things that we don't want to accept because they're just sobering truths that make us uncomfortable to understand the untenable and difficult situation that we presently find ourselves residing in. And we don't like it. So we try to come up with a multitude of things that make ourselves feel comfortable by lying to ourselves. We can't lie to ourselves and say that we're accustomed to serving the king. We can't lie to ourselves and say we're accustomed to moving as royalty, much less having the mind and thoughts of a ruler. We can't lie to ourselves and say that we're accustomed to giving, offering, serving, obeying, reverencing, and honoring a king. You're unaccustomed to that. So because you're unaccustomed to that, your woman is unaccustomed to doing so. So she's not going to know how to do it because you don't know how to do it. So you can't knock her for not being accustomed to doing something that you're unaccustomed to. That's just not right. You know what I'm saying? But then, of course, what we also discussed, we got to make sure where our minds, the reason why I'm mentioning that, why that ain't right, because we have to look at our mindset. Cain's mindset was wicked. And he thought he could serve the king with a wicked mind and then it would be cool. And it ain't. That man don't want that crap. He don't care about that crap. Well, more than anything, you just want to show that the king got ownership over you. But again, blessings out the house. Elohim in the name of Yahushua, man. I appreciate y'all. Yahuwah willing, man. We'll pick it up on tomorrow and make it do what it do. Till that time.